Chapter 1.
I'm pregnant.
Behind the bar, Linc turned slowly to look at Jayde. She'd been standing there for about 10 minutes, and he'd ignored her every second of those minutes. For a good fucking reason, too. He didn't want anything to do with her. No fucking way. She was dangerous. And no matter how much he'd wanted to touch her, smell her, taste her, he knew he would be taking his life in his own hands by doing so.
Congrats,
he muttered through clenched teeth, keeping his face neutral and trying to slow his racing heartbeat. He grabbed the nearest towel and began to scrub at the shellacked bar top, even though it was already clean. Thank fuck it wasn't him who got snagged. Some other sucker was tied to her for the rest of his life, stuck with dealing with her goddamn family.
Same to you,
she said softly. His spine stiffened. His hand froze. He slowly lifted his head and met her blue eyes, the ones that always got him right in the gut. In the dick, too.
What do you mean?
It's yours. He shook his head. He must not have heard her right. No.
Yes, Linc.
Linc let his gaze slide through the Iron Horse Roadhouse. Though it wasn't busy, he wanted to make sure no one else had heard her, especially one of the fucking brothers. He wasn't in the mood to get his ass thumped tonight, or any night. Even though he was good with his fists, and Slade had been teaching him better boxing techniques, he didn't want to get down and dirty with any of his club brothers. He moved closer to her, the wide, polished wood bar the only thing separating the two of them, and whispered, "How?" She arched a dark brow at him.
Really? Do I need to teach you about the birds and the bees? You seem to have that all figured out. Hence, our predicament.
He planted his palms on the bar and leaned in close, so close that he could see every shade of blue in her eyes. "Jayde, this shit ain't fucking funny." She lifted one shoulder.
It's definitely not a joke. It's true.
He blew out a shaky breath, straightened, and rubbed the back of his hand across his mouth, then wrapped his fingers around the back of his neck, squeezing tightly. "Can't be. Only did it once. Fucking assured me you were on the pill."
If you haven't heard, once can be enough, and the pill isn't 100% effective.
Holy fuck. Linc closed his eyes and saw his life flash before them. Her family consisted of 2 fucking cops and the DAMC president. He was fucked. So goddamned fucked. He had a feeling he'd end up in jail on some trumped-up charges, shot with a service weapon, or mysteriously disappearing by one of Diesel's shadows. He'd knocked up Sergeant Mitchell Jameson's baby girl, and the baby sister of not only Corporal Axel Jameson, but Zach Jameson, the Dirty Angels MC president. For fuck's sake, this couldn't be happening. He groaned, his stomach a hollow pit. "Please tell me this is a fucking joke, Jayde." Why the hell did she look so calm? Shouldn't she be upset? Freaking out? Jayde shook her head, her long dark brown hair brushing over her shoulders. He had sunk his teeth into the smooth ivory flesh of one of those that night.
It's not. Sorry you're so disappointed.
His head jerked back. "What the fuck? And you're not?" She gave him a small smile and dropped her hand to her belly, which was still as flat as ever. Of fucking course it would be. He'd finally given in to her only 2 months ago. Despite his resistance and every attempt at keeping a level head, she had worn him down until the night of Kiki and Hawk's wedding. Shit. She had got to him when he was buzzing on whiskey, when his walls were down, when she was wearing a sexy as fuck red low-cut dress that showed off her tits, clung to her hips, and swirled around her luscious thighs, when he couldn't fight what he wanted any longer. A moment of weakness could turn out to be the biggest mistake of his life. Jester, the newest patched member, moved down the bar with a shot of something in his tattooed hand for one of the customers. As he slid behind Linc, he greeted, "Hey, Jayde. Looking good, babe." Linc's spine snapped straight. Jayde gave Jester a small smile.
"Hey, Jester."
Jester hesitated, his smile widening. "What you doing hanging out here? Gonna stay for a bit?" With a growl, Linc grabbed the shot glass out of the younger brother's hand and downed it before slapping it onto the bar. "Hey!" Jester yelled. "That was for the fucking guy on the end." "Don't give a shit. Get him another. Watch the bar. Me and Jayde need to talk." Jester's gaze slid from Linc to Jayde and back to Linc. "About what?" "If I wanted you to fucking know, I'd talk to her right fucking here. Watch the damn bar." With that, he pushed past Jester and rounded the end of the long bar. When he got to her, he grabbed her elbow tightly and pulled her off the stool. "Let's go." She blinked her baby blues up at him. "Where are we going?" Linc stilled and blew out a breath. That was a good question. He couldn't take her into church. There'd be too many curious eyes and ears in there. He couldn't take her up to his room because that would be like asking for a fucking ass-whooping. And the kitchen was full of employees doing their thing right now. Shit. "Your car out front?" he finally asked. "Yes. Why?" He pulled her toward the front entrance. Good thing Hawk had been in earlier in the evening to check on the bar. Now he was home with his wife, Kiki, and newborn, where he planted his ass almost every night lately. Otherwise, the big man might have stepped in, thinking their president's little sister needed protecting. He steered her out the door and through the dark lot, looking for her Camaro. The one her father bought for her. The father who was going to string him up by his fucking nuts. He finally spotted the bright yellow Chevy, and as soon as she dug the remote from her purse, he snagged it from her fingers and popped the locks. He stopped at the passenger side door, swung it open, and shoved her gently toward it, indicating she was riding shotgun. "Why?" He cut her off. "Get in." "But—" "Just get in. No lip, woman." With a loud, exaggerated sigh, she slid into the passenger seat. He shut the door, and, as he moved around to the driver's side, shrugged out of his cut and quickly turned it inside out before slipping it back on over his Harley tee. He yanked the door open and climbed in. Or tried to, since he was practically eating the steering wheel. What the fuck? He jabbed the power button and the seat moved back until he could breathe. Hitting the ignition, the car roared to life. The car was fucking sweet. So was Jayde. But he never should have gotten in either one of them. He could feel her eyes burning a hole into the side of his head. "I thought we were going to talk." He unlocked his jaw. "If you fucking think I'm sitting at the Iron Horse in your car, you're fucking crazy, woman. Don't need anyone seeing us in a car together. Gonna drive somewhere safe and dark. Hopefully your fucking father or brother ain't on patrol so they can rip me out of the car and tase my ass before using me for target practice." "They won't." "Right," he grunted. Even though it was only spring, he turned the AC on full blast. For some reason, he had fucking sweat beading on his forehead. After shoving the car into drive, he stabbed the gas pedal to get them the hell out of Dodge. Stupid, you showing up at the bar. Just stupid, Jayde. "You needed to know." He hardly heard her answer over the thumping of his heart in his ears. With a grunt, he shook his head. "You don't tell me that kind of shit in public. In the club's bar, for fuck's sake. Could have texted me and I'd have met you somewhere." "You never agree to meet me anywhere. You don't even respond to my texts anymore." He could hear it in her voice. The thickness. The sadness. He closed his eyes for a second and steeled himself against it. "Reason for it?" "Apparently," she answered softly. "You don't want me." No. That wasn't the fucking reason. Linc wanted her. Fuck, he wanted her like a drug addict wanted their next fix. From the first time he saw her crossing the common area at church when he was a prospect, her hips had rocked and rolled across the room as she came to see Z, who was fresh out of prison. Jayde hadn't seen her brother in 10 years, the whole time Zach spent locked up. But she had gone against her father's wishes and showed up to welcome her brother home anyway. He knew right then and there she was a gutsy spitfire. He could see it in her flashing blue eyes, could see it in her walk, in her attitude. But he only watched her over the years, knowing she was 100% off limits. It would be bad enough to go against his president's wishes, but her cop father and brother? Oh, fuck, no. It was bad enough that Mitch Jameson hated the fact that Z was a part of the MC, and he certainly wasn't happy that his youngest son was shacking up with Bella, a DAMC born and bred biker chick. Mitch wanted nothing to do with the club that his own father, Bear, had started. Not one damn thing. And now a biker may have knocked up his daughter? His little girl? Linc tucked a hand in between his legs, holding onto his balls. He had a feeling he'd be losing them soon. He pulled the Camaro into a dark, empty parking lot that was tucked behind a closed business. They couldn't be seen from the road, and hopefully the cops wouldn't be swinging through any time soon. He shoved the shifter into park, rolled the windows down, shut the Chevy off, and sucked warm night air through his nostrils. He needed to tamp down the urge to puke. He twisted in his seat and stared at the woman in the shadows of the car. Want you, Jayde. Want you so fucking bad. But also like breathing. He lifted a palm to stop her when she turned toward him with her mouth open. Ain't here to talk about that. Need to know how you know it's mine. How do I know you ain't pawning some other fucker's kid off on me? Even in the limited light, it was obvious her jaw dropped open, and her eyes narrowed. He ignored her outrage. Can't tell me I was the only one. She hadn't been a virgin when they hooked up. Hell, the fucking woman had gone off to college. No woman survived college without at least getting laid once, right? His jaw tightened at the thought of some college boy laying between her soft thighs, dipping his dick into her. Probably just trying to get himself off and leaving Jayde in the dust. He hadn't. Fuck no. He'd made sure she came at least 3 times before he popped a nut. Unfortunately, he popped it inside her and hadn't had a rap with him. But then, they were at a DAMC wedding and he wasn't planning on getting laid that night. It wasn't like there was going to be any available strange at the celebration. She also said that night she was on the pill. But at the Iron Horse, she stated it wasn't always effective. Had she lied about being on the pill at all? No matter what, he had only expected to sit, drink, and watch Jayde from a distance as she danced with the club sisters. Then he planned on going back to his room at church and whacking off at least once to that memory. But when she continued to tease him from across the room, and then again in a dark, hidden spot outside the large tent, when she got up on her tiptoes and took his mouth, shoved her tongue inside, then ground her belly against his hard dick as a sexy moan bubbled up her throat, there was only so much a man could take. Especially since she had been the fodder for his daily whack-offs for years. Finally, when he got to sink into her soft, wet heat. Fuck. And that was after he got to taste her sweet, silky honey, something he hadn't forgotten to this day. He closed his eyes and drew his tongue over his bottom lip in remembrance. The oxygen left his lungs, and his dick twitched in his jeans. Fuck. When she whispered, "Linc," on a shaky breath and touched his thigh, he stiffened, and his eyes popped open. He brushed her hand off. Her touching him was going to make it harder for him to keep his head on straight. Who knows? She dropped her hand back into her lap with her other one and stared out of the windshield. No one yet. I wanted you to be the first to know. Well, thank fuck for small miracles. There may be a way out of this mess yet. He steeled himself for what he said next. Ain't telling nobody. Getting rid of it. She gasped, and her head spun in his direction. No, No, Linc. He shook his head. Got it, Jayde. Got your life ahead of you. This will fuck up your plans of finishing law school and shit. You can't. We can't. The woman wanted to finish law school, to pass the bar and join Kiki's firm as a partner instead of just an assistant. This would fuck everything up. She had big dreams. She needed to follow them. She didn't need to be tied down with a kid. I could still finish school, she whispered. How? Law school is fucking expensive. How are you going to pay for that if your daddy don't do it for you? I've been saving. Kiki? He shook his head. You'll be disowned, Jayde. Your father, hell, your brothers. He swallowed hard and tried a different approach. Being a dad ain't for me. How do you know? Look at Diesel. Jewel is D's old lady.
So, you think that makes a difference?
Fuck yeah, it does, he yelled. He squeezed his eyes shut for a second, then responded more calmly with, "Yeah, it does."
Violet wasn't planned.
No shit. No one forgot the shocker of Dee going down like a tree in the middle of a redwood forest. But they got a connection. They were together before she got knocked up.
And we can be together after.
He shook his head. No, I live above church. You're still living with Mommy and Daddy, for fuck's sake.
We'll get a place.
No.
Linc.
No. No. He didn't want to be the reason she fucked up her whole life. Saddled her with a kid. Dashed her dreams of becoming a lawyer. Made things rough between her and her family. Just fuck no. She would eventually regret it and come to hate him. He couldn't live with that. She was smart. She should know this would screw up her plans for her future. She was college educated, had career goals. Why the hell would she even want to have a kid with a biker like him? He needed for her to see the sense in what he was saying. No, Jayde. Fuck no. This ain't right. Don't want a fucking kid and don't want one with you.